There is a silent magnetism that does not come from appearance, but from an inner strength that overflows and naturally draws others in. It is as if certain people carry an energy capable of awakening curiosity, trust, and desire without having to say much. This force is neither a trick nor a mask. It is the reflection of a deep alignment between who you are inside and how you express yourself to the world. When this inner connection happens, everything around you changes. Your interactions flow, your presence is noticed, and your self-confidence becomes contagious. Here, we will explore the inner transformations that awaken this genuine charm, rooted in psychology and a deep understanding of human nature. If you wish to become naturally magnetic, the starting point is much further within yourself than you might imagine. Write in the comments, "I activate my inner power every day and feel this change begin now." In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, true attraction is born from the process of individuation, the path to becoming who we truly are by integrating the conscious and unconscious aspects of our personality. Jung believed that we all possess a shadow, made up of parts of ourselves that have been repressed or denied, often because they did not fit external expectations. When we ignore this shadow, it manifests unconsciously, influencing behaviors and choices, including in relationships. Becoming irresistible in this sense is not about pleasing or shaping yourself to meet someone else's desires, but about integrating light and shadow, embracing your wholeness. This generates authenticity, and authenticity creates genuine connection. Another essential point is the balance between the inner feminine and masculine archetypes. For Jung, everyone carries these two principles: the animus, masculine aspect, and the anima, feminine aspect. When one is neglected, insecurities or excesses arise, throwing personal energy off balance. The integration of these inner forces brings presence, clarity, and emotional security, deeply attractive qualities. There is also the phenomenon of projection, in which we place onto others qualities or flaws that actually belong to us. By recognizing and reclaiming these projections, we regain personal power and begin to interact in a more conscious and balanced way. Therefore, according to Jung, true magnetism begins when you look within with courage, bringing into consciousness what was once hidden. This inner movement not only strengthens self-esteem, but creates a natural aura that does not need to be forced. It is the reflection of a whole human being who knows, accepts, and radiates their essence in an authentic and magnetic way. Authenticity is one of the most powerful elements in personal magnetism. But contrary to popular belief, being authentic is not simply about speaking your mind or acting spontaneously all the time. In Jungian terms, authenticity is the result of deep integration work, in which we acknowledge not only our visible strengths, but also the more hidden and uncomfortable aspects of who we are, the parts Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not necessarily bad. It is made up of traits, desires, emotions, and impulses that for some reason were repressed over time. Often, these aspects were genuine, but clashed with family, social, or cultural norms. For example, someone may have repressed assertiveness because they were taught to always be agreeable, or suppressed sensitivity because they learned that showing emotions is a sign of weakness. These elements, held in the unconscious, continue to influence behavior indirectly and often in distorted ways. Integrating the shadow begins with self-knowledge and the willingness to face yourself without filters. This involves noticing repetitive relationship patterns, identifying emotional triggers, and above all, taking responsibility for these parts without falling into guilt or self-punishment. When we recognize that every trait, even those we deem undesirable, has a function and an energy that can be redirected, we stop fighting against ourselves. This inner alignment creates a type of presence that people sense, even if they can't explain why. True authenticity communicates security because it is not trying to hide flaws or maintain masks. It conveys coherence as there is congruence between what you feel, think, and express. Most importantly, it creates a safe space where others also feel comfortable being genuine, deepening bonds and sparking attraction. From a Jungian perspective, someone who integrates their shadow projects less onto others. This means that instead of being attracted only to what is missing in themselves, they begin to recognize those qualities as their own. This process reduces emotional dependency and increases affective independence, making them far more magnetic. After all, few things are as alluring as someone who feels complete in themselves. Practicing authenticity requires vulnerability. You must let go of the need to please everyone, accept criticism, and understand that not everyone will approve of this truer version of yourself. Yet, paradoxically, it is precisely this posture that sets a person apart from the many others still trying to fit into external molds. Over time, integrating the shadow also expands the range of possible expressions. A person begins to access qualities that had been dormant: firmness, sensitivity, humor, creativity, compassion, or determination, depending on what was repressed. This enrichment of personality not only strengthens self-esteem, but also increases adaptability in different social and emotional contexts. In relationships, this emotional depth is perceived as intensity and presence. Conversations stop being superficial, your gaze conveys genuine interest, and your body communicates confidence without exaggeration. It's as if vital energy flows more freely, making every gesture and word more impactful. This is why the power of authenticity cannot be manufactured from the outside in. It is the result of a constant commitment to your own truth, even if that truth evolves over time. When you live in this state of alignment, attraction stops being an effort and becomes a natural consequence of inner connection. Within analytical psychology, Jung reminds us that we all carry in our unconscious archetypal images representing the inner feminine and masculine, the anima symbolizing the feminine aspect in the male psyche, and the animus representing the masculine aspect in the female psyche. These are not social roles or gender stereotypes, but complementary energetic forces that influence how we think, feel, and express ourselves in the world. Balancing these energies is central to developing natural magnetism. When the feminine aspect is in harmony, it manifests as receptivity, intuition, creativity, empathy, and the ability to nurture deep connections. This does not mean passivity, but rather openness to perceive nuances, read between the lines, and create safe, emotional spaces. A balanced feminine energy is like a soft magnetic field that attracts through warmth and sensitivity. On the other hand, a healthy masculine aspect translates into focus, assertiveness, clarity of direction, and action. It is the force that drives decisions, sets boundaries, and upholds goals with firmness. A well-integrated animus is not authoritarian or controlling, but acts as an inner structure that provides security and stability, both for oneself and for those who connect with that energy. When one of these poles is weakened or distorted, personal magnetism loses strength. An excess of masculine energy without the balance of the feminine can create harshness, coldness, or excessive competitiveness, pushing people away rather than attracting them. Likewise, an excess of feminine energy without the masculine structure can lead to dependency, insecurity, or difficulty asserting oneself, which also diminishes natural charm. The inner work of balancing these forces begins with recognizing how they are operating in your life. It is necessary to observe recurring behaviors. Do you have trouble saying no? This may indicate a dominant feminine without the support of the masculine. Do you resist expressing emotions? Perhaps the masculine is overwhelming and suppressing the feminine. A conscious practice is to cultivate daily habits that nourish both poles. Creative activities, moments of introspection, and connecting with the body strengthen the feminine. Assertive decisions, clear goals, and discipline develop the masculine. The key is integration, using the feminine to intuit the path and the masculine to walk it with determination. This balance creates a magnetic presence because it communicates two powerful messages. I can welcome and I can sustain. This means you can receive others empathetically and warmly, but also stand firm and secure when needed. This combination inspires trust, curiosity, and respect. Energetically integrating these poles creates an aura of completeness. There is no need to seek outside what you believe is missing, because the inner dialogue between masculine and feminine already provides emotional support and clarity of action. The result is a natural posture of emotional independence, which attracts by radiating freedom rather than neediness. This harmony also brings spontaneity to interactions. There is room for lightness and playful seduction, but also for depth and meaningful conversations. Others sense they are in the presence of someone versatile, able to flow with the situation without losing their center. It is precisely this fluidity, combined with inner firmness, that creates a feeling of magnetism and mystery. Ultimately, balancing feminine and masculine energy is not about fitting into external models, but about recognizing that these two principles already live within you. When they interact in a healthy way, they become the foundation for more conscious relationships and for an attraction that does not depend on appearance, but on presence. This is the kind of presence that does not need to force itself to be noticed. It simply exists and radiates. In Carl Jung's view, projection is the unconscious act of attributing to another person qualities, flaws, or feelings that actually belong to us. It is as if we use the other as a canvas onto which we project unacknowledged parts of our own psyche. This dynamic can be enchanting at the beginning of a relationship, but often leads to frustration over time as the idealized image fails to match reality. Freeing yourself from projections is a crucial step toward building more authentic bonds and developing a magnetism that lasts. At the start of a relationship, projections often show up as idealization. We see in the other extraordinary virtues, perfect compatibility, or a saving strength we believe will complete us. The problem is that often these virtues reflect our own latent potential that has yet to be lived. For example, deeply admiring someone's courage may reveal that this same courage exists within us but has not yet been fully expressed. When we are unaware of this process, the initial enchantment can turn into disappointment. The other person begins to show imperfections, which were always there but were hidden by projection, and the relationship enters a crisis. At this point, many walk away, believing the other has changed, when in reality, it was the lens of idealization that fell away. Freeing yourself from projections does not mean losing the ability to be captivated by someone, but rather reclaiming responsibility for your own experience. It means honestly observing what exactly attracts or bothers you about the other person and asking, is this quality or difficulty something that also exists in me, but that I do not fully acknowledge? This self-inquiry is transformative because it draws back the power that was once placed outside yourself. When you do this, something curious happens. Attraction stops being an attempt to fill inner voids and becomes a conscious choice to share life with someone. This posture is profoundly magnetic because it communicates freedom and discernment. The other person senses that you are not there out of emotional dependence, but out of genuine affinity. Moreover, understanding projections allows for fairer interactions. Instead of demanding that the other live up to a fantasy or compensate for internal insecurities, we begin to see them as they are, with light and shadow, virtues and flaws. This realistic view strengthens empathy and patience both essential ingredients for deep and lasting relationships. Energetically, reclaiming projections means no longer wasting energy on unrealistic expectations and instead redirecting it toward your own growth. This reclaimed energy increases vitality, mental clarity, and emotional balance, all elements that naturally enhance personal presence. In practice, breaking free from projections requires awareness and emotional discipline. You must observe yourself in interactions. When there is excessive enchantment or disproportionate irritation, a projection is likely at play. Recognizing this is not a sign of weakness, but of psychological maturity. Over time, this skill becomes second nature. You see others more clearly and less through the lens of fantasy. This creates a space of authenticity where attraction is sustained by truth rather than illusion. It is in this environment that a type of connection is born that does not easily fade, because it is based on mutual recognition and acceptance of differences. When we live free from projections, we become more whole, and this wholeness is felt by those around us. It is not a forced glow, but the magnetic calm of someone who knows that nothing external is responsible for their completeness. This posture inspires admiration, respect, and desire, as it reveals a person who relates from a place of conscious choice rather than unconscious need. The process of individuation, according to Jung, is the journey through which a person becomes fully themselves, integrating all conscious and unconscious aspects of their personality. It is a path with no shortcuts, as it requires confronting fears, revisiting beliefs, accepting vulnerabilities, and valuing forgotten potential. When this integration occurs, self-confidence stops being an act of trying to appear secure and becomes a natural state, radiating magnetism from the inside out. Authentic self-confidence is not a posture of superiority, nor a shield against criticism. It comes from clarity about who you are, knowing your strengths as well as your limitations. In individuation, we recognize that our flaws do not diminish us, but are part of what makes us human. This acceptance reduces the fear of rejection, and consequently eliminates defensive behaviors that push people away. When we are not individuated, our identity tends to be based on external expectations, what the family approves of, what society values, what the group deems acceptable. This creates a constant need for validation, which translates into disguised insecurity. The desire to please or adapt excessively weakens personal magnetism, as it subtly communicates that the person is not rooted in themselves. The individuated person, however, begins to live according to an internal axis. Their choices are not made to fit in, but to align with their values and purpose. This alignment creates an aura of integrity that others intuitively perceive. It is as if their energy stops being fragmented and flows in a single, steady direction. Furthermore, individuation fosters the courage to take a stand. Clarity about oneself also brings clarity about what one wants and will not accept. This definition is attractive because it communicates security. People confident in their boundaries and desires become a reference for those still living in indecision, inspiring both interest and respect. Another essential aspect is that on the path of individuation, a person learns to better manage their emotions. Instead of being dominated by them or repressing them, they can express them consciously and in balance. This emotional maturity is highly attractive as it creates a sense of stability and predictability in interactions, factors that inspire trust. In relationships, individuation changes the dynamic of attraction. Instead of seeking someone to fill internal gaps, the person looks for a partner to enrich life's experience. This approach reduces emotional games and manipulations, as the relationship stops being an arena of neediness and becomes a space for mutual growth. Self-confidence derived from individuation is quiet, yet powerful. It is not about drawing everyone's attention, but about being deeply noticed by those tuned to the same frequency. This magnetic presence does not wear out over time, as it does not require constant effort to maintain. It is sustained by internal coherence. It is important to understand that individuation is not a final destination, but an ongoing process. At each stage of life, new aspects of ourselves emerge to be integrated, and each integration further strengthens self-confidence. Along this journey, we discover that we do not need to be perfect to be irresistible. We need to be whole. When we live from this wholeness, everything changes. The way we walk into a room, the tone of our voice, the way we look into someone's eyes, the posture of our body. These are subtle yet powerful signals that tell others we are comfortable in our own skin. And this is perhaps the purest essence of human magnetism. Inner transformation is the true core of any lasting magnetism. Along this path, we see that it is not about superficial techniques or strategies to impress momentarily, but about a deep dive into the psyche, inspired by the principles of analytical psychology. Integrating light and shadow, balancing feminine and masculine energies, freeing yourself from projections, and advancing in individuation are not isolated steps, but interconnected movements that build a solid and radiant inner center. When this foundation is cultivated, self-confidence ceases to be a mask and becomes a reflection of inner harmony. This changes not only how you are perceived by others, but also how you perceive the world and position yourself in it. The attraction born from this is natural, free of forced effort, and creates more conscious, stable, and meaningful relationships. The invitation, therefore, is to take this content into daily practice. Observe your patterns, recognize your projections, give space for all your inner aspects to express themselves, and strengthen both your receptivity and firmness. This journey is continuous, and with each step, deepens your power of connection. Subscribe to the channel and keep exploring content that expands your understanding and potential for transformation. Watch the video on screen now and let this movement of growth expand even further.